What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be breaking down the assault rifles in Advanced Warfare, and we're going to be looking at a bunch of preliminary stats, and then I'm going to tell you which one I feel is the best assault rifle in the game. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so before we get into this, I just want to say that these stats may not be 100% accurate to the game code. The reason for this is that simply hasn't been cracked and released yet. So we don't really know the exact numbers, but I calculated this to the best of my ability with the equipment that I have. So keep in mind these numbers may not be 100% exact, but they were all calculated in the same way, so they're still great for comparison's sake. So I decided for the assault rifles, since they all kind of have different traits, I would sort of separate them into their own categories. So first we're going to cover full auto assault rifles, then we're going to go into the burst assault rifles, and then finally we'll look at the one semi-auto assault rifle. Alright, so first let's look at the full auto assault rifles. Right here is all of the stats that I collected for the full auto assault rifles. These are the ones that I feel are most applicable when you're looking at which assault rifle is best, at least in the full auto category. Just in case you're wondering, the BTK means bullet to kill, or bullets to kill. So 3 is the first number on the BAL. That's the number of bullets it takes to kill at a really close range. And then the 5 for the BAL, that's the number of bullets it takes to kill at a long range. Next, I calculated range, rate of fire, time to kill up close, as well as the time to kill at a distance, the reload time, and the magazine size. So first, let's go over the BTK, like really quick, the bullets to kill. Like I already said with the BAL, 3 shots to kill up close, 5 shots to kill at a longer range. The AK-12 is actually a 4-shot kill even at point blank range, which is not very powerful. That's pretty weak. And it's a 5-shot kill at a longer range. And the HBRA, just like the BAL, 3 shots to kill up close and 5 shots to kill at long range. Now for range, I'll just show you the distances that I got the 4-shot kills with these weapons. Any further back than where these players are standing, it will be a 5-shot kill for that particular weapon. So first we'll compare the BAL to the AK, and as you can see, the AK is quite a bit better than the BAL at the 4-shot kill range. And now we'll compare the AK, since it was the better of the two, to the HBRA. And you'll see that the HBRA is actually better than the AK. So it's a lot better than the BAL and a little bit better than the AK as far as its 4-shot kill range goes. Just in case you were wondering, the target was standing right against the wall where the crosshairs are centered in these pictures. So clearly, the HBRA has the best range of the 3 assault rifles. The AK-12 is the next best, and then the BAL-27 is the worst. But you'll notice I have a little star next to worst. This is because the AK-12 doesn't even have a 3-shot kill range. So now let's compare the 3-shot kill range of the BAL versus the HBRA. So as you can see, once again, the HBRA comes out on top. It has a slightly better 3-hit kill range than the BAL. The next thing I want to look at is rate of fire. Now, like I said at the beginning, these numbers aren't 100% accurate to the in-game code. These are the best approximations that I could come up with, but they're still very useful as far as comparison goes. For the BAL-27, there's an average rate of fire of around 730 rounds per minute, but the BAL starts off firing slower and then it speeds up over time, so keep in mind this is just an average. The AK-12 has a rate of fire of approximately 750 rounds per minute, so it is slightly faster than the BAL. And then finally, the HBRA has around a 620 rounds per minute rate of fire. So it's definitely the slowest out of the 3. So moving on, I want to cover the time to kill. Now, the BAL up close is the clear winner for its time to kill because it kills in just 3 shots up close, and it does have quite a high rate of fire. As for killing at a longer range, the AK-12 actually comes out on top, but not by too far. It's just barely ahead of the BAL. For the reload times, the AK-12 is just a little bit faster than the other two, and the other two are basically identical. They're very, very close as far as the reload time goes, but the AK-12 does come out on top in this category. And finally, for magazine size, the AK-12 and HBRA are both 30-round mags, and the BAL has a 32-round mag. So these stats in the chart wouldn't be complete without looking at some recoil plots. Now, these recoil plots, they were all shot from the exact same point with the different guns, and as you can see, the BAL actually has a fair amount of side-to-side recoil. You can kind of see it here. It almost drew a line straight sideways, and that can be a little bit hard to control. The AK-12 has a much tighter spread, so it's a lot more accurate than the BAL, and it kind of kicks somewhat randomly, but a little bit more, it tends to kick a little bit more upwards. And then finally, the HBRA has pretty extreme recoil, but it's almost straight up, so it's very predictable. And that's one thing I actually like about the HBRA's recoil. So this might look a little deceiving. It looks like it just has the worst recoil out there, but it's actually a predictable recoil. Alright, so now that we've covered the full auto, let's move on to the burst weapons. And for this category, we have the ARX 160 and the IMR. Now, the bullets to kill, I didn't calculate this really. It's just too difficult to calculate without actually going into the code, because it's hard to tell if you killed him in your first bullet of a burst or your second bullet of a burst. It's really too hard to tell, and with these guns, I'm more concerned with how many bursts it normally takes to get a kill. So for the ARX 160, it's a 3-round burst, so I just said it kills in 3 or more bullets. It seemed like it took at least 3 bullets to kill. It took at least 1 full burst to get a kill. And the IMR is a 4-round burst, and the same thing sort of happened. It seemed like it took all 4 rounds to get a kill. As for the range, right here is the maximum 1 burst kill range that I was able to calculate with these guns. So any further back, and it seemed nearly impossible to get a 1 burst kill. So you had to be up this close to get a 1 burst kill. And as you can see with the ARX 160, that is an absolute terrible 1 burst kill range. It's almost always going to take you at least 2 bursts to get a kill with the ARX. As for the IMR, it's actually got a pretty good 1 burst kill range, but keep in mind you have to hit 4 shots instead of 3, so it's going to be more difficult on a moving target. The next thing I want to look at is the average rate of fire. Now again, these are approximations, and this is also the average rate of fire for an entire magazine, and it includes the burst delay. So it includes that delay between each one of your bursts, rather than calculating just the rate of fire of the burst itself. So it's definitely not going to align with what the in-game code says, but it is still great for comparison's sake. And as you can see, the IMR does fire a little bit faster than the ARX. Now the next stat is something that I also calculated, and that is the burst delay. This is the time it takes between bursts. So after you fire 1 burst, this is the amount of time it takes before you can fire your next burst. And the ARX clearly comes out on top in this. When you're actually firing the ARX as fast as you can, it almost sounds as if it's a full auto weapon because that burst delay is so small. Whereas the IMR does have a slightly longer burst delay, but it's still pretty fast when we compare it to other Call of Duties. Moving on to reload time, the ARX is clearly ahead of the IMR here. The ARX actually reloads quite fast at 1.8 seconds, whereas the IMR takes a full 2.8 seconds. And it is a little bit deceiving with the IMR because you don't actually remove a magazine, you just sort of like flip something up and then push it forward. But it actually does take 2.8 seconds. It doesn't look like it, but it does. Now finally, for the magazine capacity, the ARX 160 has a 30-round magazine, whereas the IMR has a 36-round magazine. It's also worth mentioning that the IMR does print its own bullets, so every few seconds it actually prints 4 more bullets, so 1 more burst of bullets. So essentially you don't need to run scavenger with the IMR, as long as you're patient. So before we move on to the last assault rifle, which is a semi-auto, let's look at the recoil plots comparing the ARX to the IMR. On the left, we have 2 different plots from the ARX, and on the right, we have 2 different plots from the IMR. And as you can see, the IMR has a much tighter spread, and it is just a vertical recoil, so it's very easy to predict and control, whereas the ARX kind of spreads out a little bit more. So overall, the IMR is more accurate than the ARX, but the ARX can put more bursts downrange faster. Alright, and finally we have the MK14, which at the time of launch is the only semi-auto assault rifle in Advanced Warfare. I am hoping they'll add more in future DLCs just because I'm a big semi-auto assault rifle fan, but for now this is all we have. For the MK14, the bullets to kill, it takes 3 bullets to kill up close and actually out to a pretty good range, and then at a very long range it kills in 4 bullets. So right here is just demonstrating the maximum 3-hit kill range for the MK14. As you can see, the player on the bottom half, he is using the MK14, and if you were stepped any further back than he is right now, it would be a 4-hit kill. And this range is actually really comparable to the BAL's 4-hit kill range. So it does have a really good 3-hit kill range. So getting back to the other stats of the MK14, the average rate of fire is around 500 rounds per minute. Now keep in mind this is a semi-auto and it is just me firing as fast as I can and then measuring the time it takes to fire an entire magazine. So it is possible it could go a little faster, but it did seem like I was pretty much capping the gun out, and that was as fast as I could get it to fire. I'll show you guys a little clip of me firing it pretty much as fast as I possibly could. So as you can see, it's got a pretty good rate of fire. It could be better. It's not quite as good as the Black Ops 2 FAL. That FAL, I believe, was somewhere in the 600 round per minute range, and I was capable of firing in the 600 round per minute range. So it's not that my trigger finger can't keep up. It's simply the gun is capping out at around 500 rounds per minute. Now for the time to kill, up close, it's 0.24 seconds, and at a distance, it's 0.36 seconds. Pretty much average as far as assault rifles go for time to kill. Reload time is 1.74 seconds, which is pretty fast for the assault rifles when you compare it to the other ones. And the magazine size is the smallest in the category for assault rifles at 20 rounds in a mag. Now finally for recoil, as you can see, I was firing quite close here, a lot closer than I was firing the other assault rifles, but I just wanted to demonstrate that the recoil characteristics, it's basically straight vertical, it goes straight up, which is really good because that's really easy to control, especially with a semi-auto. Okay, so now that we've covered all of the different stats for every one of the assault rifles, it's time to let you know which one I feel is the best in the game. Now this of course is going to be my opinion, and also I'm not going to be able to choose just one because every one has its own little traits. Some are better than others in certain situations, and others are better than the other ones in certain situations, so it really depends on it. But there are a few that I would say are not very good, and I'd kind of put them on a lower tier. So basically for full auto assault rifles, I would say the BAL-27 is the best if you're keeping your gunfights at not a very extreme range. If you're staying relatively close and you only challenge longer range gunfights if you know you have a clear advantage as far as cover and everything goes, then the BAL I would say is the best assault rifle. However, if you are playing more at a longer range and you're trying to pick people off at a distance, I would say the AK-12 is the best, or the IMR. It's really hard to compare the two. I would say the IMR is probably the best just because of its recoil characteristics. It's got very little recoil, and you can pretty much always two-burst somebody if your aim is decent, even if it's across the map. So I would say either the AK-12 or the IMR are the best at range. And then there's the MK-14, which is kind of on its own, I would leave it. It's its own thing. It doesn't really compare too well to the other assault rifles. It's great at longer ranges. And it does have that great 3-hit kill range. So it is an awesome gun, but I can't really say that it's better or worse than the other ones, simply because it's so different. Now this is probably not quite the answer that a lot of you guys were looking for with this video. A lot of you, I'm sure, were hoping I would just say, this is the best assault rifle, hands down, and this is the one you should use. Fortunately, this is not the case. And the reason I say fortunately is this means that these assault rifles are balanced, at least relatively balanced. I like seeing a Call of Duty game where there isn't one clear winner that is best in almost every situation. I like that the BAL, for instance, is better up close, whereas the AK-12 is better at a distance. And I like how the ARX and the IMR kind of have their own little differences as well. The ARX, you can fire those bursts faster, but it's not quite as accurate as the IMR. There's lots of little trade-offs with this. But overall, for me personally, I would say my favorite gun right now is the BAL. This may change in the future, but the BAL is my favorite at the moment. So that's going to wrap it up for today's video. If you're new to the channel and this is the first video you've seen, I encourage you guys to go have a look at some of the other content on my channel. This channel is basically designed around helping you improve at Call of Duty, and then I throw in some live commentaries as well, which I find are a lot of fun, and they can also help you improve because I try to bring a lot of tips in my live commentaries as well. So if this kind of content appeals to you, don't forget to subscribe. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you guys next time.